Hiya folks, Dee Dee here today to walk you through a mixed media tag tutorial. I am starting with a piece of watercolor paper that has been cut into a size 8 shipping tag using the Sizzix and Tim Holtz die. I also used some masking tape to kind of start adding some texture and get a little grunginess kind of happening in the background. And then I'm covering it with gesso, clear gesso, and it's doing two things. One, it's grounding my watercolor paper because watercolor paper is so porous, it really kind of soaks all the moisture out of mediums. And then two, it's also holding that tape in place. It's giving that tape some nice bonding to the piece, to the background. And then I've got out a Donna Downey stencil here, and I have really been crushing over this like middle stamen area of this flower for a very long time. And so I thought I would play with it today with some modeling paste. And I am using the Blick version of modeling paste, which actually, once it dries, is kind of a bit more plaster than some of the plaster-like than some of the others. But all modeling paste will work here. Light modeling paste, regular modeling paste, all of them. So remember to remember that you know, even though some products are different or they have different varieties and maybe different textures and things like that, a lot of them are interchangeable. So I did the modeling paste and I let that dry, and then I got out some high flow acrylics by Golden, and I mixed up my own gray here using carbon black and titanium white in this little cup, and then I spritzed my whole piece down with some water and had some fun with that paint. And I highlighted the cool textures that I got from that stencil, from the Donna Downey flower stencil, and I just had fun kind of going back and forth and playing with the grays and getting them to kind of move around in the background of my tag here. And I'm adding a little bit of water, then I'm heating parts dry, and then I'm adding some water, and then I'm heating parts dry. I'm kind of going back and forth, so just to see what happens and you know, try a little less heat and a little more heat and things like that. So experimenting is always fun. I did do some splattering here with the paint that was left over, and some of the bigger splatters, because they were taking longer to dry, I wiped them up, and then they had this cool halo effect, which I'm very fond of. This is this is a Distress ink pad, but the pad was DIY, do it yourself. So I actually filled it with an archival ink. I like that raised pad surface, and I can kind of highlight some things. This here is a piece of vintage text, and I have already gone through and started some blackout poetry, and I just kind of highlighted some words on there that I was really liking. And then I'm going to, instead of blacking out, I'm going to white out. So this is more like white out poetry. But going through that there, and the words that I found in this vintage text read, "The rainfall is heavy, the wind, the sea. Emphasis is placed on sense." I thought that was great. I don't know why. It doesn't have to rhyme or, you know, make reason or anything like that, but all those words spoke to me, and I really like how they played out on my piece. So that's what I ended up going with. And I'm using gesso now to white out the rest of the words around them and really make the words I chose stand out. I used charcoal to go around the edge of the words, and I like the way the boxes look. Some people will circle theirs, and there are all kinds of things you can do. I am scraping some gesso here. But back to the charcoal pencil, like you could use a regular pencil, you could use a pen, you could use a marker, you know, you could use a stabilo, you could use all kinds of things, and different products are going to react differently when you touch them with the white gesso. So then now I am ripping the edges of that white. So it was a little bit big for the tag, and that's totally fine. And then this here, so this is a vintage Italian text that I've really been kind of working into a bunch of my pieces lately because I love it so much. And I have layered up a couple of pieces of that behind my whiteout poetry. And I'm going to glue all three of those little pieces together. And I'm just using some Yoo-Hoo here. It's kind of like almost like Elmer's glue on crack. That's what I like to tell my art journaling students. I really like it. And then I'm going to adhere that to the back of the tag as well. And I'm using a graphite pencil to kind of put some fun grungy marks around my little kind of collage piece now. And I am back here, so it seems a little bit like washed out, this part of the video, but the reason is because I have this like shiny mat down with some like kind of fancy lights that I got, but I'm adding a layer of encaustic medium to my tag. And so encaustic medium is wax and damar resin that have already been mixed together, so it's like really perfect to use and kind of just go for it. And I showed I have a skillet on the side, and you don't really need to see it. It just has warm wax in it, in my brushes, my hockey brushes and stuff like that. But, and then this ginormous, awesome heat tool, which is so good and perfect for wax. So I put down a layer of wax, and then I added a few more areas, and then I fused it. Then I got out some carving tools, and I used like the kind of like poker style tool and did a little drawing almost, and I just carved down into the wax. And I've got some oil paint here, and when you're like working with wax, underneath your layers can be almost anything, and then you can layer your wax. But after you've put your wax down, you can't really use acrylics or things like that on top of it because they'll just like flake off. So I used some oil paint and I worked it down into the grooves, and then I used some linseed oil and a rag to wipe off the excess paint. So then I was highlighting the grooves and distressed areas that I got in the wax. All right. So that's it. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me all year here on the Artist Gang blog. Yeah, thanks so much. It's been really great being here. You know, good luck to all the applicants who have applied for next year, and I look forward to being inspired by Donna and all the people surrounding